Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I am Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail, and I am joined on today's show by Gary Lenett, who is the founder of DUER. We're going to be talking to Gary today about a little bit about the business, and in particular, its growth into brick and mortar retail at this time. So thanks for joining me today, Gary.
Well, thanks for having me.
So to get us started, why don't you go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about DUER for those that might not be familiar with the company?
Yeah, DUER's a performance apparel brand for both men and women, but we come at it from a really different angle than other performance apparel brands because we take jeans and other regular pants, right? We don't not athletic wear, and we put technical and performance into them. So we don't sell athletic or après gym clothing. We take jeans wear and casual clothing and put technical into it so you can wear it for everything you do in a day.
And then tell us a little bit, I alluded to the fact that you're moving further into physical retail. I imagine you're selling those products online as well. Any other channels between those two?
Yes. I mean, from the beginning, this is a relatively new venture for me. I started about 6 years ago. And from the beginning, it was really, e-commerce was always meant to be the sort of the core engine, economic engine. And we have two other divisions though. We have a retail division where we have 5 retail stores of our own. And we also have a wholesale division where we sell to retailers worldwide. So we sell to about 800 retailers worldwide. So it's funny because when I'm trying to explain this, I usually talk about how it's a bit of oxymoron because we're an omni-channel, we're a boutique omni-channel global business, which is
yeah, right.
When I started my career, that was an impossibility. Like you couldn't do that.
Well, that's a good segue. As you mentioned, you started your career, and you know this is a relatively new venture for you. So tell us a little bit about your professional background. What inspired you to launch DUER?
I've done a number of things in my career. I'm an older guy. I actually have been in the different elements of the fashion industry for about 30 years. And really had enough of that business. I was just burnt out. I was doing, working with most of the big brands in North America, and I had my own lines and stuff like that, but it really got tired for me to do just straight fashion. I was a large manufacturer in the Pacific Northwest, and I wound that down. It was actually contemplating retiring. And I started, I actually gave up my car. I wanted to, get healthier and just lead a simpler lifestyle. I'd been traveling for many, many years, and I was 56 years old, and I started riding my bike everywhere. And yet, if I had an important meeting and I still wanted to ride my bike, I couldn't find anything I would wear. And I thought, wow, so this was almost sort of meant to be a bit of a retirement gig. I didn't know how big a segment this was, but I thought, I'm a serial entrepreneur. It seemed like an opportunity. I could make pants for myself. And that's how it started. Really because I had a fairly long commute to my office at the time and couldn't find anything that I would wear that worked for me. Traditional denim jeans wear was not flexible enough. And then I won't wear sort of synthetic rich après gym clothing and try to dress it up for the office. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, and to your point, a lot you know, and I talked to, having done so many of these interviews and talked to so many different founders and entrepreneurs, you know, kind of the genesis for their businesses is that they're trying to solve a problem within their own life. As you mentioned, you were riding into the office and you didn't have the apparel that you felt was right for you, and that many others probably had that issue as well.
Well, look, I didn't know at the time how broad the market was, but it appears that way because we've been growing pretty fast.
Yeah. So as I noted, you're kind of taking, I don't want to say the reverse approach, but contrary to what many brands and retailers are doing, particularly over the last year or so, DUER has been expanding its brick and mortar footprint. Tell us a little bit about the thought process there and why you're taking that approach.
Yeah, I mean, we always had we always had as I said in the intro, that we always had an omni-channel strategy. We thought that we could, that they all work in unison and they support each other. So, right from the very beginning, when I started the company, we started online only, and then we put, I had a little pop-up store in the front of our design shop. We were tiny, and when I say pop-up shop, it was really a makeshift changing room. And, I saw people come in and out of the changing room as I was in the back, working in the office. And I just thought, like, you need to, I realized quite quickly with the type of category we're in, that you had to try on the pants, right? E-commerce and retail would support each other. Certainly, e-commerce has accelerated now, and especially in the last year compared to where I was at then. But I really got this vision of that people don't know that they have a problem, because our pants are billed as the most comfortable pants in the world. And you don't really know that you have a problem with your other pants until you put our pants on. So I've always really seen retail as a big piece of this. And most of our referrals, especially in the beginning years on e-commerce, came from people that tried them on at retail and then said, wow, you got to try these on, you got to order them online, if we had no store in the territory.
Yeah, no, that's kind of that omni-channel behavior too, that you mentioned is kind of what you had in mind as with the brand started, or not, maybe not when it started, but what it's evolved into at least. So let's talk about kind of the in-store experience, and it's probably changed a little bit over the last year plus with the pandemic. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing within your DUER stores to create those immersive, those engaging in-store experiences that will make customers want to come into your stores. Tell us a little bit about the in-store shopping experience.
Yeah, I'm trying to say this in a sort of a humble way without sounding like I'm bragging, but I'm gonna, like, I've been shocked, literally people that during the last year have been taking their life into their hands coming into our stores, like, and I'm often surprised, right? Because I've been, I guess, maybe because of my age, I've been pretty careful. I haven't been doing a lot of shopping, but our stores have been really buoyant during the pandemic. They're all safe. We only let so many people in at a time, et cetera. But I really do think it's because we see the stores more as brand hubs and not so much selling people product, but to experience the product. All the stores have something which we call a performance denim playground. And so we have an interactive treehouse, and we have swings, and we have monkey bars. And the idea is that, again, just like that original pop-up, I saw people coming out of the changing room and they'd start doing squats and they start doing high kicks because they'd never sort of experienced the type of sort of freedom and stretch that we have in our pants. So we gave them essentially a playground to play in as they try on their pants. And these are all incorporated into the changing room areas. And that's sort of the primary way that we differentiate ourselves and allow people to have a different experience coming in store than your ordinary retail store.
Yeah, and given your product line, this kind of performance apparel wear, the customers, before they're walking out of the store making a purchase, it's a good opportunity for them to really put these pants to the test. And they're doing all these different activities in the store. And is that kind of the feedback you get from your customers? It helps them really, almost, it's like a test drive in test driving the product.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I mentioned, but we have stationary bikes in the store too. And that's probably one of the more used items. They'll get on the bike, they'll, see how it feels. And it's not so much that that we're doing commuter apparel, but it's the fact that they know that if they could ride a bike comfortably, they could do, they can do almost anything comfortably. So it's just that fluidity of movement that they can confirm, and they have fun, and that's the other thing. I don't know, I'm a very social animal, and I'm going to be really looking forward to getting out and seeing people again. And I think, we've given a good reason, not just to test out the product, but to come in and have these sort of interactions with our staff who and have some fun.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think a lot of people are missing that social experience, the interaction with others, whether it's shopping, any of these other activities in addition to shopping. Um, so specifically to your store markets, maybe you mentioned I think you said 5 company-owned brick and mortar stores at this point. Maybe tell us one where those are located, and then as you look to expand, one, are there particular markets that are of peak interest, and then how are you identifying where you might be potentially moving into for physical stores?
Yeah, sure. It's funny because I did say 5 and I got ahead of myself a bit. I've got an offer to lease that I'm just negotiating right now on the 5th. But our stores are in Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Denver. And then we're hoping open in LA. I'm hoping July 1st. We have plans to open in New York in the fall. And we're basically it. There's 2 sort of approaches we have. The sort of the official line is we take a very analytical approach, which is a pretty low risk approach. We go to urban centers where we already have a big fan base that we've built up either through our wholesale or our e-commerce business, so we can track and we know where we have a lot of fans already, and so it's a pretty low risk proposition to go and open up a store. It's not like we're going to be brand new in the city, and we have our penetration from an e-commerce and wholesale perspective is quite strong in New York and LA, so it seems like no-brainers, 2 of our best cities. But then on the other hand, there's also the brand part, and it's not so analytical, and these are just cities that I love and love going to. And again, I don't know if I should be saying that, but that's part of that's part of what we factor into.
Well, you want to make it fun, like you said. It's
Yeah.
just so that's part of it as well. So you mentioned the way you kind of view your physical stores is brand hubs. Maybe you can just explain a little further what you mean by that, and then the second part to that is, with that in mind, what are the things that you're measuring to evaluate store performance? Maybe it's not a strictly revenue driven. Tell us a little bit about what you look at to say, okay, this store is performing up to our expectations, above our expectations. Tell us a little bit about the strategy there.
So once again, there's sort of what I would call a quantitative and a qualitative measure. The quantitative is pretty standard. We measure our stores based on sales and conversion. So how many people come in the door and how many do we convert? Which is typically we have pretty high standards because we have a differentiated product. So, and we only have, again, our concept is when you talk about brand hubs, I think part of that language goes to the fact that we're not planning to open up multiple stores in any single city in the world. Like these are truly, we're trying to show the world how we show up. We don't need even 2 or 3 stores in a city. We just need 1 store, and we become a destination store for people who want to find us. So we're not talking about building a network of thousands of stores worldwide. We're talking about building a network of, maybe 15, 20, 25 stores in key centers. And it's turned out that way. So when we have tourists that come to, like we have people that come to Canada, will come to Vancouver because they're seeking out our store. They know there's only 1 store or 2 stores. Well, there's 3 in Canada now, but so that's worked out, and that's what we mean by brand hub. The other way, but when you think of that within that context, you only got 1 store in a city. Are the sales of 15 or 20 stores going to be material to the business, over time? Not really. So that's where the quantitative measures sort of take a back seat to what I believe. I'm personally most concerned about how the brand shows up. Well, if someone walks in the store, and this is not a quantitative measure, but because I can't attribute it, but if someone walks in the store for the first time and they've never heard of us before, are they going to say to their friends, wow, I made a cool discovery today. I found this great new brand that's differentiated, right? That's what I want. I want that stickiness. I want people to know we're different, because when I started this business, one of the lines I had when I was talking to some of our key stakeholders, I said, the world doesn't need another clothing brand, right? It really, really doesn't. That's just the same as everybody else's. Like, it has to be differentiated. Otherwise, it's just a waste. It's a waste of resources and time and money.
So we've talked a little bit about, and you alluded to your own personal being excited, going, looking ahead post pandemic to getting back into some other, activities that you might not have been doing as much. Let's talk about the kind of consumer at large, and how do you potentially see their behavior evolving post pandemic, and then the impact that it might have on DUER's business.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot recently as we're sort of starting to see the light here. And I mean, there's two major shifts that I see. I mean, and this sort of is my job. I mean, I'm not, when we're talking about analytical stuff or quantitative stuff, like, that's not my role. My role, I often say my role is to see ahead, not on the sides or backwards, right? So that's what my job is. And I really see clearly two major shifts that are going to be enduring coming out of the pandemic. One is this acceleration of e-commerce. It's just going to continue to accelerate. So the shift to online shopping, the consumer habits, I think, is going to continue. And then the shift to a healthy outdoor lifestyle, which, certainly plays with our origin story and our brand. I mean, I don't see that changing. I mean, you talk to anybody who's selling anything from, I don't know if we're in Canada, so I'm going to use the word canoe, but kayaks, canoes, bicycles, any outdoor, anything that you can exercise outdoor in, like, they're all sold out and there's waiting lists. And this, I just, like me at a certain age, I think once you make a commitment to that sort of healthy outdoor lifestyle, I don't think you go back. I don't think there's any going back. So those are the two shifts, the shift in e-commerce and the shift to sort of a healthy outdoor lifestyle. I think those are going to be enduring. And I think, they're obviously incredibly aligned with my brand. So maybe I'm drinking my own lemonade, but that's how I feel. I'm actually trying to be professional and containing my enthusiasm as I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah, no, just as a neutral party in the conversation, I wholeheartedly agree with you. One, about the continued, future adoption of e-commerce, and just, the convenience, and especially with the way shipping times are now today, that's not going away. And then, the outdoor activities that you see people have kind of adopted or even pushed further into, if they were already sort of outdoor enthusiasts, that behavior change, I don't think is going to go back. So to your point, I think it aligns extremely well with what you're doing at DUER, which is a good segue into my final question, Gary, in terms of where your attention is focused. You said your kind of role is to see what's coming next. What are you kind of looking at as you continue to grow DUER? We've talked a little bit about kind of physical retail. We've talked about product. Is there technology or growing the team? Maybe new product categories. Tell us a little bit about where you're thinking for going forward.
Yeah, I mean, because we're so dynamic, and we don't plan, for us, like, a quarter is a year, because we double in size every year. So, with that kind of growth, it's pretty hard. You have to stay really nimble, and we're pretty short term in our goals. I mean, for this year, our two major emphasis is to grow our women's business. So that's something we've always had a women's assortment in our line, but it's been primarily men up until recently, and we're really proud of sort of how we've advanced that in the last year, and that's going to be a real emphasis of ours. And then the second piece I've already alluded to several times is just brand awareness in the U.S. We're very strong in our three major markets are Northern Europe, Canada, and the U.S. And I still think we're, in a lot of parts of the U.S., we're a little bit of a secret. And I think once we launch in LA and New York, that's really going to be, we're no longer going to be a secret.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Gary Lenett of DUER for joining us on today's episode of Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.